Hello everyone, my name is Sahil and I welcome you all at Unacademy. So guys, in the today's video, we are going to discuss a very important topic. Recently, what has happened? Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said this thing that Pakistan has realized their mistake and now they are ready to talk with India. Now, this is something which is very big coming from Pakistan. So in this video, we are going to talk about the significance of this particular thing. Moreover, we are going to discuss in detail the India-Pakistan relations, their history, the different phases in which India-Pakistan relation can be divided, the way forward. So if a question comes in your GS paper number 2, international relation on India and Pakistan, in this video, you will get an entire answer on any dimension if it will be asked in exam. So let's start with the video, and before starting I would like to tell that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Now, first of all guys, what has happened? Pakistan's Prime Minister in one of an interview have said that Pakistan is ready to carry serious and sincere talks with the Indian Prime Minister. However, they have also said this thing that these talks are dependent on the fact that whether India is ready to restore Article 317 Jammu and Kashmir, where Jammu and Kashmir were given the special status. Now, we'll discuss on this particular statement little bit more. But before that, guys, let's talk a little bit about the history of India-Pakistan relations. Now, when we talk about India-Pakistan relations, India-Pakistan relations can be divided in certain successive stages. Stage 1 of India-Pakistan relation can be called as aggressive phase of relation, which started from 1947, the time when India became independent, and it continued till 2001. During this particular time, we have seen that this phase was marked by frequent wars between the India and Pakistan, and there were three wars that have happened between India and Pakistan. First was in 1947, 1948 because of the Jammu and Kashmir region, then 1965 and then 1999. And if you want to include the India, if we want, we will also be including here the India Bangladesh Liberation War that happened. Fine, Bangladesh Liberation War that was there. Now, if we talk about the brief history between India and Pakistan relations, first we can see that 1947 partition happened, and after just partition, the dispute emerged on the region of Jammu and Kashmir. So as per Mountbatten plan, it was provided that princely states, they can opt either Pakistan, they can opt for India, or they can say independence. Now here we see that Raja Hari Singh signed instrument of accession with India, but Pakistan did not like that, and on Jammu and Kashmir, dispute emerged between India and Pakistan. Then 1949, that particular dispute got ended, and after UN intervention, the ceasefire was agreed on Jammu and Kashmir. Then in 1965, the second war erupted between India and Pakistan, and it ended again in 1966 with UN ceasefire. And then in 1971, third war, the Bangladesh Liberation War, which ended with the creation of Bangladesh, an independent nation. It has stayed a kind of an irritant in the minds of Pakistan. Now, and in 1984, then we see that Operation Meghdoot was carried for recapturing the Siachen area when Pakistan had violated ceasefire agreement. Now, further moving in this particular direction, now in 1980s to 1990s, we see that this particular phase was when Pakistan started to sponsor terrorism in the region of Jammu and Kashmir, and this was the phase when the insurgency militancy in Jammu and Kashmir increased a lot, particularly because of the Pakistan sponsored activities. Now in 1998, then we see that there was a successful testing of nuclear weapon capabilities by both of the nations. Now this thing made both countries capable of nuclear weapons, and it really this was a very big landmark in both the countries. Okay, then we see this thing that in 1999 the Kargil war and Operation Vijay was conducted, and Indian army was successful to push Pakistan on other side of LOC. However, we saw that the Pakistan did not mend its way, and in 2001 the attack was carried on Indian Parliament, which was planned by LET and Jaish-e Mohammed, and we know this particular thing. conclusively that the planning and this particular intervention was supported by Pakistan. So basically the period till 2001 was marked with aggression. This particular period was marked with a bad patch between India-Pakistan relation. However, we see that the period which started post 2001 and which stayed till 2008 was a reconciliatory phase. Both the countries tried to mend their relation, and we have seen that the attempts for cordial relations were made by both the nations during this particular time. Now here we see that even the permanent ceasefire was agreed between India and Pakistan, though Pakistan did not respected it and ultimately it broke down, but attempts have been made in this particular direction in past. Even confidence building measure was signed, energy pact was signed during this particular time. Let us know about this particular development in little bit more detail. So in 2003, we see this thing that Pakistan called for a permanent ceasefire between both the countries as Pakistan realized the mistake that they have done in the past. And then we see this particular thing that in 2004, a composite dialogue was initiated between India and Pakistan, and here bilateral meetings were held between officials at through diplomatic channels. The bilateral talks were carried which aimed to bring normalization between India and Pakistan. Then in 2006, we see that India and Pakistan agreed to they agreed that terrorism has been a very big problem which had plagued both the countries, and it had plagued India even more. And here what happened, India and Pakistan both agreed that they will initiate an anti-terrorism mechanism. Even Pakistan agreed on this particular thing. And because of such a support that has been shown by Pakistan, it became the base for 2008 framework agreement on Tapi pipeline. So Tapi, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan gas pipeline project was initiated, and this was a high phase between India-Pakistan relations. But then we see that post 2008, the bilateral relations between India and Pakistan, they entered in a kind of a passive stage. Much active involvements were not there. You can see this particular thing. For example, number one, what happened? We see this thing that Mumbai terror attacks, you know that it was carried, and post Mumbai terror attacks, it was known to the entire world that the attacks were planned in Pakistan. And because of that particular thing, the eagerness in interactions and relation that started after 2001, it started to go down. And we have seen this thing that the dialogue, it was limited mostly to the official level. Okay, cultural relations, people to people ties, they came to a kind of a low point. Moreover, here we also see this particular thing that we also find this particular thing that as this particular issue was carried. So I have just presented a kind of a timeline here so that you can understand this details in more of a fluid kind of a manner. So 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, 2009 Pakistan government admitted this particular thing that the planning for Mumbai terror attacks have happened on Pakistani soil, but active cooperation was not provided by Pakistan. Now we see this thing that India executed Pakistani national Kasab who was involved in Mumbai terror attacks, and here you need to see that though Kasab was executed, but before that all the legal remedies were provided. So this is the high point which India has respected, but Pakistan never cooperated actively with India on Mumbai terror attacks. Then we see this thing that India and Pakistan trade accusations also started here in this particular time. Ceasefire was violated, and actually ceasefire has been violated throughout this particular phase by Pakistan, though they signed the ceasefire agreement with India. Now in 2014, India unveiled the neighborhood first policy. Despite of all the terrorism that has been supported by Pakistan, India tried to embrace Pakistan under the neighborhood first policy. And we also see that the Prime Minister also visited Pakistan in the show of good gesture. But we see this particular thing that again Pakistan did not cooperate, and a kind of a renewed aggression again started post 2015 eventually. Maybe because Pakistan was facing a kind of an existential crisis because of the respect that India had got on the world stage in the past few years. And in this particular thing, we see this thing that first of all, diplomatic isolation, that was there. Diplomatic talks between India and Pakistan were not carried very eagerly. Then rise in cross-border terrorism have increased, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir, where Pakistan has actively exported terrorism. Then there are several attacks on Indian soil that have happened, for example, Pulwama. Moreover, we see this thing that the trade relations also worsened between the two nations. I will be talking a little bit more on this particular aspect in just a few minutes. And internationalization of entire dispute has happened where Pakistan actively involved China. Okay. Now, let's discuss a timeline of this particular matter, fine, so that it can help us. So, in 2016, in a bid to put a stop to Pakistan terrorism, what happened? India launched the surgical strike on terrorist units in POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Now, basically, this particular thing has happened because you might be knowing about the Uri attack that was also there. Now, after that, we see that again, the Pakistan, again, we have seen this particular thing that the Pulwama attack were carried in 2019. And then there was the Balakot airstrike that was carried by India in response. Okay. Then in August 2019, India changed the status of Jammu and Kashmir. Article number 370 of Indian Constitution, which gave special status to Jammu and Kashmir, it was diluted, and this was the point for which thing Pakistan got irritated a lot. Okay. Now, when we see this thing that Article 370 was diluted, the Pakistan has degraded the relations post Article 370's dilution. Moreover, we have actively seen that now China and Pakistan axis has developed where both the countries are collaborating under multiple projects. For example, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor got started in 2015, and China-Pakistan Economic Corridor actively passes through POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. Now, Pakistan occupied Kashmir is an illegal territory that has been captured by Pakistan. And as this project CPEC is passing from POK, India has never given approval to that project because it is Indian territory at the end of the day. Now, India has continuously opposed the Pakistan occupied Kashmir that they have illegally captured. Now, before moving, guys, I would like to tell you a little bit about the Unacademy UPSC CSE GS subscriptions, in which you can enroll. Why to choose Unacademy? Because here you get widest choice of educators, flexibility to change your course, unlimited view on lectures, dedicated doubt-solving sessions, printed notes, end-to-end preparation, fine from prelims to interview, all the stages will be taken care of. Mentorship, daily answer writing practice session. And you can enroll in plus as well as iconic batches, and you can use the code Sahil29 to get flat 10% discount. And the best thing about Unacademy is that you can learn at your own pace and you can avail the subscription options which will suit your preparation. For example, 12 month, 18 month, 36 months likewise. And now the UPSC iconic week offer has come where if you buy 18-month subscription, you will get optional subscription absolutely free. Along with that, you will get 20 GS books. So here we see this thing that just in 85,000 rupees, you can get entire iconic GS subscription complimentary optional. So it leads to saving of around 46,000 rupees. And here again, for availing this offer, you can use the code Sahil29. And now Unacademy has also launched Expedition Batch, which is an English batch for 2024, and the batch is launching from January 19. You can enroll in the batch to make your preparation more precision oriented, and all these courses are also available at 0% EMI. So you can call at this number and my team will guide you with the bare minimum formalities. Now, moving on, guys. So we have seen that how the India-Pakistan relation can be divided in different stages. And now let's talk about the major irritants between the two countries that are still there. So as we talk about major irritant, the biggest irritant is border dispute and security issues between India and Pakistan. Now, when we talk about the boundary between India and Pakistan, it is the result of partition of 1947 and the Red Cliff Award that was given. Now, as we talk about the boundary between India and Pakistan, it runs through marshy, it runs through the marshes of the Run of Kutch. Fine. It traverses through the deserts of Rajasthan, fertile plains of Punjab, mountains of Jammu and Kashmir. Now we see that at many places the boundary is not properly demarcated, and Pakistan has tried to take undue advantage of that. And along the border, many of the regions have been disputed. And the next biggest irritant between India-Pakistan relation is Kashmir dispute. So I already told you all this particular thing as well, that Mountbatten plan that was announced during the partition, it was provided that princely states, they are free, that they can join India, Pakistan, or they can stay independent. And we saw this particular thing, that Raja Hari Singh, who was the Maharaja of Kashmir, signed an instrument of accession with the Indian Union and expressed his desire to be the part of India. But Pakistan did not like this particular thing, and Pakistan believed and therefore the Pakistan carried an intervention. And we see this particular thing, that Pakistan dispute just started after Indian independence, and this was the first war between India and Pakistan. Then the next big irritant between India and Pakistan is Pakistan's non-state actors cross-boundary terrorism that Pakistan has exported. We see this particular thing, that Pakistan always had an agenda to destabilize India, and what Pakistan cannot do outrightly, it does that particular thing through the terror sponsoring. Now, the next issue, guys, that we talk now, the major terrorist outfits that are leading this agenda of Pakistan, you can see their names on the board. Major ones are Indian Mujahideen, Hizbul, fine, Ansarut Tawheed, and Lashkar-e-Toiba. So these are certain agents, certain outfits, terror outfits that are operating through Pakistan, and Pakistan has not shown active support to India in order to grip these organizations. Then water dispute has also been there. Now, guys, though, as we talk about the water dispute, we know this thing, that Indus Water Treaty has been signed between India and Pakistan. Largely, this is a successful treaty that has been there. But still, Pakistan has many number of times had raised certain disputes even on this treaty, which is largely called as a successful, going by the global standards. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about Indus Water Treaty. So, as per this treaty, three rivers, that is Ravi, Satluj, and Beas, they have been given to India for exclusive use, and three other rivers, that is Jhelum, Chenab, Sindh, they have been given to Pakistan. But still, though the treaty I told you is successful, but it has seeded dissatisfaction between the countries, because Pakistan many number of times had tried to block India's run of river hydropower projects that India had tried to construct on the rivers. Okay, on technical grounds, on technical grounds, Pakistan had tried to stall India's projects in this particular direction. Now, the next irritant after boundary, water, and Jammu and Kashmir, the next irritant that comes is China-Pakistan axis. And we have seen that post 1962 India-China war that happened, China had tried to make a nexus with Pakistan, and this particular relation had got deepened between China and Pakistan with the successive times. Pakistan actively got support from China during the India-Pakistan war. Then in 1970s, 1980s, nuclear cooperation was provided actively by China to the Pakistan. Then in 2000, we have seen this particular thing, that as India got closer to the US, India-US nuclear deal was going on, China had deliberately went closer to Pakistan, and in 2015 China-Pakistan Economic Corridor was formally started, which is nothing but further, it shows the strengthening of relation between China-Pakistan just for nefarious purpose, just to counter India. And in 2019, after dilution of Article 370, abrogation of Article 370, the friendship between Pakistan and China has increased. Now, as we talk about, guys, the China-Pakistan nexus that has built, this particular thing has raised certain concerns for India, and the biggest concern is a two-front war, which has become a challenge for India. So on one front there could be Pakistan, on one front there could be China. Moreover, we have seen this thing as these two countries have come together deliberately. What has happened? They are trying to prevent India's rise in global arena. So India's economic rise, India's political credibility that India is establishing, they want to challenge that. And because of this particular thing, territorial aggression on Indian territories has also been shown. For example, Galwan clashes in 2020, Tawang clashes recently that had happened. Fine. Now, as we talk about, guys, the irritants between India and Pakistan, because of that particular thing, the implications have also come on economic ties, economic relation. Now, if I just want to, if I show you little bit of data, you see this thing. Pakistan was among India's top 50 trade partners in 2018-19. But we see this thing that what had happened? Pakistan had carried a trade ban after 2019 Article 370 incident. And because of that particular thing, the trade relations have went down. Moreover, we see this particular thing that after the ban that was imposed, certain exports to Pakistan have fell down, particularly the exports of cotton that was going to Pakistan. Now, in 2021, Pakistan partially lifted this particular ban because of the incidents of flooding and because of high inflations and because of economic challenges that Pakistan was facing. Now, moreover, India also, as Pakistan had carried the ban and all such kind of things, what India has done, India has also revoked the MFN most favored nation status. India has also revoked MFN most favored nation, which was given to Pakistan in 2019. Now, basically, guys, as we talk about these particular kind of relations, they are actually disturbing a kind of a synergy that was built between two countries over the years. Now, there are certain convergences also that are there between both the countries, and these convergences should be leveraged. For example, we see this thing that the Kartarpur corridor was carried as a fine gesture of cooperation between India and Pakistan. Now, Kartarpur corridor, it connects Darbar Sahib Gurdwara in Pakistan and Dera Baba Nanak Shrine in Gurdaspur in India's Punjab. Now, as this particular shrine has as the shrines have been connected through Kartarpur corridor, it is a fine gesture and it shows that how culture, how the synergies can still be leveraged. Okay. So this is something that has been there. Moreover, under SARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, both the countries, India and Pakistan, who are active members, they can cooperate. But we have seen this particular thing that diplomatic summits of SARC have not been carried, particularly because of the disputes between India and Pakistan that have been there. Okay. Then on climate change and disasters also, both India and Pakistan shares a kind of a similar situation. Both nations are highly prone, and recent flooding incident that happened in Pakistan, they have shown vulnerability of Pakistan. They can come together under as a South Asian nations and can deal with the disasters. Recently, guys, a report that was published, it was provided that the pollution in Pakistan will proliferate to India, pollution in India will proliferate to Pakistan. There are 6 airsheds that are shared between Bangladesh, India and Pakistan. And if pollution as a problem is to be curtailed, the active cooperation between these countries is very much important. Now, let's talk about the recent interview that has been conducted. So Pakistan's Prime Minister had said this thing that Pakistan has realized their mistake and now country wants to have a peaceful relationship with India. They want to talk with India. The war is very costly and they will not be able to bear the burden of one more war between the two countries, and they want to have the cordial relations. But they have said this particular thing that the relations can be made cordial only if Article 370 is restored. Now, the point that comes here is that Article 370 is the internal matter of India, and India being a sovereign country, India doesn't need such advices from the nations such as Pakistan. So, this is India's internal matter, and pinning it on India is not something which might be materializing. Fine. So, this is something, guys, that is there. Now, basically, Pakistan needs India actively because of these reasons as well. Pakistan's foreign exchange have went alarmingly low. And as Sri Lanka has seen economic crisis, Pakistan is also on the brink of such economic crisis. To pay for energy imports, okay, and for their economic viability, they need a robust partner, which India could be there. Now, we also see this particular thing, guys, that I have told you that Article 370 is a kind of an unfair expectation that Pakistan is having from India. Now, if any relation has to continue, then number one, Pakistan has to tackle terrorism from its root. No engagement between India and Pakistan can be carried until the terrorism is not controlled by Pakistan. So this is something, and India has put a very strong position on state-sponsored terrorism that Pakistan sponsors. Okay, then soft power diplomacy can be used. Now, political values, culture, fine. When we talk about, guys, the cultural ties, people to people ties particularly that are there between the India and Pakistan, it can be used. And on the fine gestures, soft diplomacy, as we are talking about, Kartarpur corridor that got reopened, it shows the cultural potential between India and Pakistan which can be leveraged. Moreover, trade needs to be promoted between the two countries, because through trade, the viable relations between the countries can be cultivated, and this we have seen in the case of Europe post World War II. Now here, the countries need to remove the non-tariff barriers, red tapeism, bureaucratic hurdles that are there. Duties are needed to be cut down, and custom clearances between the countries are needed to be carried. And the most important is people-to-people relations between the two countries. And for people-to-people relations, these are the 5 steps that are needed to be taken immediately. Facilitating travel between two countries, visa regimes should be eased, security to the terrorists is to be security is to be provided to the tourists who are going to visit. So tourists are to be provided security. Setting up of student and faculty exchange program, and professionals between the two countries can visit. Moreover, the most important thing which Pakistan has to tackle immediately is that Pakistan needs to reform its political culture. So we see this thing that military has wielded a kind of a substantial power in Pakistan's matters, affairs, which often complicates the situation between India and Pakistan. So military's role is needed to be diluted, and Pakistan needs to respect the democratic world order which India has always preached. So this is, guys, on which on whose basis India-Pakistan relation can further move. So that is all, guys, about the today's video. Guys, I hope that you have liked it, and if you have liked, please do hit like button and please do comment. Thank you so much.